We're now in the hands of our capable city clerk, Ms. Lisa Lambert.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, June 20th. We have approval of minutes from June the 13th.
It's good.
Appeals, we have requests for waive the noise ordinance on July 4th from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. on Spring Hill Avenue, June 24th from 6:30 p.m. until 12 a.m. on Elmo Avenue. Okay.
District 4.
Yes.
Okay. Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. David Clark, give the 2022 Alabama Tourism Economic Report. Michael Pierce provide an update on the Mobile Housing Authority. Dan French, questions regarding the building at East I-65 Service Roads. Travis Howard, speak about homelessness in Mobile. Deborah Cooper, concerns about animals on chains and improper teethers at the animal shelter. Thomas Mitchell, discussed the homeless crisis in Mobile. Ann Jurgens Pond, concerns about Conti Street historic preservation. Bethany Kraft, concern for the need of adequate speed control on Texas Street.
Just a couple of things. Someone is a knowledge of the 325 built on East Side 65 Service Road about this Dan French.
Is this the building that's over close to Morrison's and Lowe's?
Yeah, same.
I drove by there the other day. I mean, it's just, I can't tell what it is he's asking about. It's just a vacant building. I don't know.
You know. Okay. And Ms. Carey, you good with 9 Conti Street and Texas Street?
Ordinance is held over. 88029, authorized the sale of city-owned property located at 1621 Virginia Street.
Mr. Reynolds, I see that one thing you had passed out this morning. Want to discuss that?
It's just a red line change that we received from the administration that I haven't had an opportunity really to read through. So, I mean, school board only meets once a month. I think it would be in our best interest to try to get something on their agenda so that they can have their discussion. And so if there's a way that we can come to terms on the intergovernmental agreement, maybe we pass it and then hold this item over 1 week until they pass it, which is the sale agreement. So that will always be, there's a sale agreement that we could pass after the intergovernmental agreement is finalized. We can show the intergovernmental agreement as an exhibit in the sale agreement. And then once they approve it, then we pass the sale agreement. Any objection to that? I mean,
Mr. Carey?
I had the chance to talk to the school board chair this morning. They haven't seen any of this yet. Their work session is on Thursday. I think it would probably be best if we hold it over a week, all of it, until we know if there's going to be any substantive changes that may be requested or added by them to even put something out there that may have the chance of being changed where we don't have a smooth transition. To me, is kind of putting the cart before the horse.
Ms. Gregory?
Just, is that something that the superintendent and the school board are okay with? I thought I understood last week that they wanted us to go ahead and approve our part before they would approve their portion of it.
Morning. There we go. Yes, I spoke with the attorney for the school board last week, and we had a few conversations about comments. So the red line that you have includes the changes that the school school board superintendent and his attorney have reviewed and approved.
Yeah, my next question was, where did these red line changes come from? So it was the school board attorney and superintendent who wanted these changes.
Correct. And we've also refined the payment schedule. That was back and forth. Yeah.
Does their board have the ability to make changes or request changes to these red lines?
The
Yes.
board will sit at its work session, just as you said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we need to give their board an opportunity to look it over before we pass anything. I think we'd be a few days ahead of schedule if we get out in front of it. Our cart to be ahead of them, which we need to make sure that the horse that's pulling his cart's fully engaged.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reynolds.
to mitigate some of that concern, I think if we are good with the intergovernmental agreement with these red line changes, and we strike this portion of the resolution as I suggested last week, if there are any changes that that the school board comes up with, they will have to come back to us and we can approve them at that point. And in the sale agreement again, which is this item we're on now, this separate item, we will have the, ultimate approval of the sale transaction to happen, and we can include this intergovernmental agreement as an exhibit to that contract. So time is of the essence, as
That's what,
Mr. Woods laid out last week, that the school board only meets once a month. So if we don't get something to sort of push that discussion with them this week, which their meeting is Thursday and then they vote on Monday, and we're really sort of kicking the can a month. So it would be nice to try to get something here that they can get on their agenda. They can have their discussions and produce some product that either is good with us or needs to come back to us or whatever, so we can, get it done.
Mr. Mayor.
Time is of essence.
is your board
If
meeting.
we accept the red line changes, that means when they receive it, they vote on it at that time, that part of it is done. Okay? If we wait for them to approve it and then send it to us, they're going to be wondering what changes are we going to be making. And so there's kind of a back and forth here. And so I think that Councilman Reynolds is exactly right. Go ahead and get this off the table. And if they have a difference of opinion in what's been proposed, we can address it next week. But it's just less things for us to deal with next week to make sure that, that we keep this ball in motion.
Mr.
And also, there's two separate items here. This is the sale agreement for the property and the intergovernmental agreement. There's nothing that stops the school board from approving their end of the sale agreement. And if we want to wait until we have the final intergovernmental agreement to add it as an exhibit to the sale agreement, we can hold the sale agreement over a week, but pass the intergovernmental agreement. And they can pass both if they choose to. And then, the very next week, we can pass the sale agreement.
Mr. Davis.
It just seems like to me the chances of them purchasing the property without the intergovernmental agreement are extremely remote. So I just soon go ahead and pass the sale agreement. And then, and as you've suggested, go ahead and approve this red line version of the intergovernmental agreement. I don't see any necessity to tie them together, because if they want to, I just don't see them purchasing the stadium without the intergovernmental agreement.
I agree, Mr. President. There is a necessity to tie them together, to have the intergovernmental agreement as part of the sale agreement. We had this discussion this morning amongst the lawyers, when the title work's done, what is the title company going to pull out of the intergovernmental agreement and place as a restriction or a part of the sale of the property. And I think it would be wise of us to enter the intergovernmental agreement as an exhibit to the sale agreement. I think that's pretty wise to do. But if we don't know the final product of the intergovernmental agreement, how do you enter it as an exhibit when you've already entered into the sale agreement? You follow me? That would be the idea, is to tie the intergovernmental agreement to the sale agreement by way of an exhibit.
But if you have an intergovernmental agreement and a sale agreement, isn't that just as good when you've got them both? I mean, it's the same thing. You're just asking for one to be included with the other, but we still have what we need to move forward and make the sale of the property with the agreement with the school board. I mean,
Linda, opinion?
Council can ultimately do what it wants. We've done things like this in the past. It's largely a matter of preference. But again, I don't see any harm in letting the school board go over it since they have to do it within the next week. They can in essence bind themselves to a certain amount of the agreement, certain terms, bind themselves to what they want on it. And then the council can either accept or reject it next week.
That's right. Yeah, but aren't we better off going ahead and approving this, what's before us today, the red line version, to give them something, something.
That's
To
what I'm
bring- to
saying.
bring
I'm
back
saying
next
with the
week.
exception.
yeah.
I think I understand that it is okay and it's a customary practice to bind the two agreements together, but we don't have a final outcome until it's voted on by the school board, right? So we approved the red line version of the intergovernmental agreement today. And then the school board goes in and, it still has to go before their board. They make whatever changes they have. If they are substantive in any way, then, it's required to come back to us. Hopefully there's not any substantive changes. As soon as they approve it, then we, the following week, approve the sale agreement that references the approved by both parties intergovernmental agreement by way of an exhibit. Does that make sense?
But it's messy.
Mr.
The
Penn,
agreements are bound together.
They're
because the
bound.
Intergovernmental agreement, as drafted, references the sale.
That's right. They're
Yeah, so-
bound
so it's
together,
there.
period.
Yeah.
It's messy.
so
Why don't we go ahead and do the intergovernmental agreement today, approve that, lay the sale over for a week, gives the school board time to meet. If they have any changes, just like you said, then we'll have it next week and hopefully make some final approvals,
Mr. Penn,
if that works.
Yeah, so if we was to approve this today and then the school board comes and make changes, it'll come back to us.
Yes.
And it'll come back either way. But it's just messy to do it this way.
Ms.
It's-
Kessler,
They normally go to hand in hand.
Yes, I was going to suggest maybe the council would approve the intergovernmental today if we add a paragraph 1 where it just says the city and school board will enter into a separate purchase and sale agreement. We could add that should the school board fail to approve that agreement, that this intergovernmental agreement is void. Make their agreement to this purchase a condition of the effectiveness of this intergovernmental agreement.
So Flo, what you're saying, say it again.
Yes, so we would add paragraph 1, where it says that the city and school board will enter a separate purchase and sale agreement.
Right.
We can add that in the event that agreement is not entered, then this intergovernmental agreement is void. So that, there's no payment, nothing happens unless they enter the purchase sale agreement.
Is that okay, Mr. Reynolds? Okay.
any questions? Mr. Carroll, you good?
I'll talk to you after this.
Ms. Gregory, you good?
Yeah, so Ben, are you going to offer that amendment that Flo just?
There's going to be a whole lot of amendments to the version where I think what would be best is after this meeting, if Flo could add that as part of this red line agreement and we throw the first one out and
Yeah.
put a new one in. I think that's what the clerk's office probably would prefer,
Lisa?
instead of all these amendments having to be enumerated. So then we'll have to just replace it, basically.
Could you do that, Ms.
20.
Kessler?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
They have till 2028 to get all the repairs done out there. They have, I mean, it's some really substantial changes in there.
2028 is the
Yeah. It's a long reach.
Madam Clerk?
Resolutions held over. 01670, authorized intergovernmental agreement between City of Mobile and Board of School Commissioners. 08671, approved purchase orders for fuel for various city departments. 08672, approved purchase order to SHI International for iPad tablets. 08673, approved purchase order to Samsung Equipment for sewer camera van. 08674, approved purchase order to truck equipment sales for Ford F450 crew cab truck chassis. 08675, approved purchase order to TRP Construction Group for road striping materials and services. 08676, approved purchase order TSA Inc. for 12 HP Elite Book laptop computers. 08677, approved purchase order to Emergency Equipment Professional for 2 Pierce Saber pumper fire trucks. 08678, approved purchase order to Seeds for Change Consulting for consulting services for the animal shelter. 08679, approved purchase order to 10X Software Solutions for election software services. 08680, approved purchase order to Image Trend for annual renewal of Image Trend patient care software. 08681, approved purchase order to Massimo Americas for 3-year extended warranty for pulse oximeters. 08682, approved purchase order to Snap-on Industrial for Snap-on Mechanic Tool Set. 21685, authorized contract with Guardian Integrators for security access control system upgrades at the cruise terminal. 21686, authorized contract with John G. Walton Construction for 2022 Pago resurfacing. 21687, authorized contract with Kyles Murphy Glover and Associates for walkway and piers at McNally Park. 40688, authorizes the sale of city-owned property located at 10 North Water Street.
Any questions, anyone? All right, Madam Clerk?
Consent resolutions being introduced. 31689, authorize a grant application to Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation for the First Responders and Public Safety Grant. 31690, authorize a grant application to the State of Alabama Law Enforcement Agency for fiscal year 23 State Homeland Security Grant Program. 60691, 692, approve and award a special bonuses to Officer of the Month and Firefighter of the Month. 693, and 694, determine appropriations to Spring Hill College and RC Africatown Plateau Pacers serves a public purpose and approving payment. Resolutions being introduced. 08695, approved purchase order to election system software for election materials for the special municipal election, $16,619. 08696, approved purchase order to Empire Truck Sales for 5 knuckle boom trucks for trash department. 08697, approved purchase order to Harold's for fertilizer for Azalea City Golf Course, $24,835. 08698, approved purchase order to Hala's Construction for synthetic turf for Lad People's Stadium, $470,352.
Question. Are we okay? Should we leave this like this or should we move it up? We know we need to do this. Everybody.
We would ask for y'all to move it up because we get started on this field compared to what you all put in the ball games.
Mr. Davis, you good?
Yeah.
All right, move it up.
Okay, we'll take it.
Mr. President,
Ms. Reynolds.
you asked if anybody had any questions on 4688, the sale of the property on 10 North Water Street, and I didn't say anything, but I'd like to know more. Who's buying that?
It's, we don't know who's buying it. It's just.
Oh, this is-
Getting permission to put it up for sale.
Oh, okay. But is this declaring it surplus as well? It is. Okay. What's the idea? I mean, I'm sure I've seen your, diagrams and boards and stuff. Is that what we're trying to pursue? Expanded use of that property
That's right.
and,
It's
restaurant, mixed retail, all that sort of stuff over there? Okay.
08699, approved purchase order to Quantico Tactical for patrol rifle optics, $44,172. 09700, transfer funds from capital improvement project, engineering, right-of-way and testing to project GA Camp, 45,000. 21701, authorized contract with Bay Area Contracting for citywide facility parking lot resurfacing and spot street repair, $1,111,786.10.
Mr. President,
Mr. Ryan.
I'm curious to know what, in District 4 for myself and then District 6, what areas are going to be repaired as part of this? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, if we could all get it, Nick, that would be great. Okay.
21702, authorized contract with J. Payne Organization for relocation of Hank Aaron's home for its current location from its current location to a new location, $124,500. 31703, authorized grant application to the Alabama Emergency Management Agency for Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, $400,000. It's 25% local match. 35704, authorized lease agreement between the City of Mobile and Board of School Commissioners of Mobile County. Announcements.
Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Penn.
I know we've been talking about last stadium, a lot of things going on. Just had a couple questions with the now the city is taking over with all the different activities that was already scheduled. What is the process right now going on with scheduled events at last stadium? Like it was already any planned events was already there.
Given what's going on at LAD, there are no events. We're going to go straight to repairing this field and getting it prepared for the sale agreement.
Okay. So any events that was already scheduled, they're getting refunded.
Yes, sir. I think there's only one outstanding event, and we're trying to work out how to remedy that one. There's a $5,000 deposit that LAD does not have the money to pay.
Okay.
Question, Article 13, page 3 of the contract, it deletes the clawback of the stadium from the school board if they choose to go a different route than what was listed by us in Article 9. As far as uses, it takes that out, where it says at any time maintain. The parties agree that after the effective date for a period of 20 years for the effective date in the event the school board fails at any time to maintain the stadium as a venue for athletic events or fails to allow the general public to use the walking track or transfer ownership to the stadium, all that's been redlined. So what is the replacement for that guarantee?
That was right of reentry, which was going to be difficult to police and enforce. So the replacement is the audit in September of 28. Now, after that, the agreement will be, as Councilman Reynolds said, an attachment to the purchase sale agreement. So it will in effect give the city a right to use the property for those 5 events for the period of 25 years. It'll be recorded in probate court.
My concern is that if something happens to it and they choose to do nothing, we don't have a way to go back to it. Is that what this states?
If they choose to do nothing.
If
you're
something-
Are you talking about spending the 9.2 million?
No, what I'm saying is if something happens 5 years from now and the school board can no longer manage the stadium, it sits dormant, empty, and nothing's happening, then according to this, I think this states that we can't get it back. We can't claw it back.
It will at that time be the responsibility of the school board, that's correct.
So we would have no way to regain control of it if it were emptied and it was derelict and those things. I think that was the whole point of this paragraph that was added, to make sure that if something happened, then we could step back in and get it under control. But with this being deleted, we can no longer do that.
We can't do it as a matter of this agreement. We can't do it as a matter of right under this agreement. But if the
With the
stadium were
clawback,
defunct, I mean, then it would become a.
but by taking the clawback out, it's saying that we can't. But with the clawback in, we can. Is that not correct?
On the basis of this agreement.
Flo, you got to talk in terms that I'm understanding. The basis of this agreement. You mean in basis of the red
Right,
line or
I-
in basis of the?
Yeah,
The-
I'm
the-
saying that you are correct, that the right that was granted under this agreement
Is
has
taken
been
away.
removed.
Okay.
Has been removed.
So,
correct.
but that's an important agreement, I would think. If something happens and nobody can get to it, that means it's going to sit there like Hartwell Field did and just rust away.
That's why I
That's
say, I think that it will become a different kind of issue, not an issue that's addressed by this
It will
agreement.
become a nuisance abatement issue. It's what it will become. And nobody will have the right to get to it, just sit there. I really need to get into this, and it may be better if this is held up a week.
So, let me make another selection. The school board's gonna put a lot of money in this. And so.
Where that?
there's- And they're all kind of hypotheticals of what could be. So if we choose to get it back, what are you getting back?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'm not saying that. There are a whole lot of hypotheticals when an individual spends $500,000 on a house and it's in foreclosure in 2 years also. So that's why you have a PMI on houses, or you banks have clawbacks in the same way that the city should. All I'm saying that the safety measures have been taken off. I haven't read through all of it, but there's some safety measures that are taken off of here by the lawyers set from the school board. And I just think that all of that needs to be plainly discussed. That's all I'm saying. And I think it's just the right about it. I don't have a problem with the sale. I just want to make sure that it's we're getting apples to apples and we're going to be equally yoked. That's all I want to be sure of.
Mr. President,
What's wrong? I mean, Pen.
I definitely understand, Mr. Councilman Carroll, when receiving this today, I was looking over and I was looking at 13 as well. That definitely, when I read it last time, that gave me peace and understanding that if these things wasn't in place, that we'll be able to get it to make sure that we can still continue with the events that we have with our HBCU games. I don't know the amount the school system is planning on put into the stadium. That haven't been given to me as well. So I understand his concerns by going over this information, because we just receiving the new governmental agreement this morning. So I'm looking over it as well and seeing different things. So I definitely understand Councilman Carroll's statements.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reynolds.
I think the school board's made it pretty clear to this point, at least in the media, it seems, that this stadium's going to be used for Murphy High School. And I don't see Murphy High School going anywhere, or their football program going anywhere anytime soon. And I think the school board, intends to have them use it for Murphy's football stadium. So if this language is in here that it was unoccupied or abandoned any time after the effective date for any consecutive 12-month period, I don't think that's likely to ever happen in the next 25 years anyway. So I don't know that at least this section of the paragraph really, does anything for us. I don't think it's that big of a deal for it to be stricken. Maybe some other portion of it, maybe, we can have a discussion on, but as far as the reacquiring it as a result of it being vacant, I think that the chances of that happening are very slim. it seems anyways.
You
Mr.
don't know
President.
you don't know what's going to happen to Murphy High School. Murphy High School used to have 2,500 students in it, and it doesn't now. Williamson used to have 1,500. It only has 800 now. We have no idea to predict the future in any case. So what you're saying is purely speculation. I think that for the betterment of the people of the city is what I'm looking at, not the school system, because we will have a small part to play in this. And my concern is about the people that want to be able to use the space and the facilities, that if something ever happens, that we as a city, no matter who's here, whether it's 10 years from now or 20 years from now, has a way to claw it back and either sell it again or regenerate it or do whatever we need to do to make sure that it remains a quality of life generating facility for the city and not just stand there. That's my point.
Mr. President,
Yeah, Mr. Perrin.
I agree you can't predict the future, but one of the things that we know that is that change happens with enrollment of schools. We know that many of our high schools now have stadiums. So it's definitely a way that Murphy still can play football games with other stadiums in place. I think honestly, even with your statement, Councilman Reynolds, it's even more important for this information to be in there, because if nothing's going to change, why not put this paragraph in there? If you're going to have it, if we know that it's going to be around, it's no harm. If you know that we're going to continue to have it, but I think it also give definitely great peace and understanding that we're going to continue to have the stadium and be able to have the HBCU games and the quality events that we would like to see in the city of Mobile that only Ladd Stadium right now can provide.
Mr.
I don't disagree with that. And if this is in here or not, doesn't really bother me one way or the other. But I think the school board had an issue with this, maybe.
Correct,
or not.
correct. The school board was concerned about the possible loss of title to the property. But I believe that we could revise this paragraph to say that the city would have the right, but not the obligation, to reenter and operate the stadium in the event that the school board abandoned use of it. And I think that would probably be acceptable to the city, to the school board, if you'd like.
Yeah, we need
Add that back in.
we need to question. I can't find, and I may be just overlooking it. There's nothing in this as it relates to stadium size. Where are we with that?
That's correct.
And I thought I read last week that there was a stadium size that we request that we stick to so that we had the capacity to host college football games. And I don't see anything in here that addresses that. So if we don't address that or even state that as an article, that means that stadium size would be determined by school board, either now or later, meaning that they could reduce the seat size, the number of seats, to a number that's non-compatible with college football games.
One conversation that we've had is a conversation about the money that we're contributing is to increase the capacity of the stadium.
You said
Increase the capacity of what they would have over and above what they would build for, the high school kind of championship games. And so if try to dictate and say that this is going to be a 30,000 seat stadium, they may tell you that you can keep it, and we're not interested in that. So I think that you've got to be very thoughtful about their commitment to do it. But until they know some of the pricing, they may not tell you that it's going to be 25 or 30. And so what do we do as the city at that point?
Mr. President, again, I'm going to request that we hold this over because we have no idea what substantive changes that the school board may do in their Thursday work session. And I am really concerned again about what the general public and the constituency base wants to also see in partnership with this deal. And I'd like the deal to be where the citizens have just as much comfort in it as we do. And right now, I'm not seeing that level of comfort based on what I'm hearing. Again, I have no problem with the transfer of the stadium, but based on everything that I heard over the last 2 weeks, it sounds like this agreement is going a little bit in a different direction from what we've been saying. So I'd like to see and hear that also from the school board, so that I'm 100% confident that we're all going in the same direction.
Ms. Gregory?
Oh. I guess the question is, since part of the agreement is to make sure that the HBCU games are able to be played at LAD, and I know the meeting that we had last week with the folks from the Gulf Coast Classic, the 30,000 was kind of tossed around a little bit as far as capacity. And I think we had also talked about that earlier. They demanded, well, but we were discussing 30,000 at the table as well. So I think that's why we kind of had it in our heads that it would be 30. I mean, I understand that school board may decide that that's too much, too expensive, or whatever.
We need
You
to
know,
have a conversation.
Mr. Pan?
Thank you, Mr. President. I do think that's very important. In the prior agreement that we talked, intergovernmental agreement, I think it was number 11. It stated that the school board should not undertake any construction, alteration, remodeling, or removal or any action of the stadium would affect basically limit to the annual Port City Classic, our HBCU game. So it wasn't a size stated in number 11 saying 30,000 or 35,000, but it basically to me showed that they were looking, or the government agreement was basically saying that we're focused on making sure that we can have that HBCU game. And right now, I don't even see that in this. I mean, I don't see it. That's why I was saying it's so important right now looking at it. I don't even see that in this documentation. And so if this was approved right now, how we know we're gonna even have an HBCU game? And that was the whole purpose of trying to focus on this.
Mr. President.
Ms. Ronald?
There are more questions that I have, Mr. President, after reading through this.
Hold on, Mr. Carroll. Mr. Reynolds, then you,
I
Mr.
think
Carroll.
Mr. Penn's referring to in the recitals, maybe where it says reserving portion of the said stadium generally for the public use and reserving the use of the entire stadium for certain designated future events as set forth herein. And then as set forth herein, it outlines these 5 dates, which, are very clear that those 5 dates are set aside for the HBCU games. Those things are still in here.
They're not
But
clearly
I
defined.
also want to make sure that we get something before the school board so that we can provoke their discussion and see what they would like to see. Otherwise, I don't know that there's anything that will be on their agenda for them to have this same sort of discussion that we're having. So I'm sort of battling with that,
We're saying it would push it another month if there's not something to.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it would push it another month. I'd like to get something in front of them for their discussion right away, even if we don't fully agree. And we still have the sale agreement. The sale agreement is still out there. We're going to hold it a week is based on what we discussed earlier. So, if all of Mr. Carroll's concerns aren't satisfied after their discussion, then, it's not like we're handing over the keys to the castle.
I'm an extremely fair person, always have been, and able to compromise in the most difficult situations. This is more about the people here and having a clear understanding of what's going on. It's unfortunate that this was dropped this morning or whenever it was dropped, because I just read it. I don't think it's on the Novus on my laptop. So, but I just read this, so it's unfortunate. I even sent a text message to all of you this morning saying, hey, I haven't seen anything yet, and I don't even know if we should even have a committee meeting because I thought there were no changes to the wording at all. So I think that this needs to be clearly discussed. I mean, just simply clearly discussed, because what you're saying here is what you just told me based on what you read is that, hey, it doesn't say anything about size, but it does say that they agree to this. I mean, I can agree to play an HBCU football game in a stadium of 5,000 seats. You know what I mean? Oh, you can play it out there. You're just gonna play it in our 5,000 seats. You know, that's simple. That's simple contract 101. You know, I mean, that doesn't mean it's going to be the proper size. It means that other revenue generating opportunities that the city has that bring sometimes a $10 million impact to the city just won't happen. You know,
I don't think anybody's out to get the HBCU.
I don't think so either. But there needs to be what's the term? Fences make good neighbors, even though you're going to jump them. You know, I think that contracts make good partners, even though there may be some compromises.
Mr. Day,
Thank you, Mr. President. I think there are certain things that we need to keep in mind. One is that we have a 75-year-old stadium that it's a 75-year-old stadium. And it shows every single year of that. And at some point, to continue to operate it is going to require significant capital expenditures. What we have before us is an opportunity for significant capital expenditures to be made on it. And the city is willing to put $10 million into that, and the school board more. I'd be very cautious about expecting either this city council or any future city council being willing to approve the kind of capital expenditures it's going to require to maintain that stadium going into the future.
Mr. President, for so many years, last stadium had an operating budget that was, I think, maybe $500,000. Last stadium operated about even. Didn't ask for any money from the city other than what we gave them. But we have a civic center that we're about to spend $300 million on that was losing $2.5 million a year, that has an asset depreciation that's over $10 million. And you're telling me that we don't want to spend $40 million on a stadium. We're about to spend $300 million on a civic center, plus another $26 million on a parking lot. Sounds like we're putting our money where we're losing $2.5 million a year instead of in a place where we were breaking even. Now, for me, that math doesn't add up. So when we talk about an asset that we got to spend $40 million on if we had to, because we could if we chose to, the problem here is that we did not choose to. So, but we did choose to spend right at $300 million on the Civic Center. Oh, well, we're way down the road, and we're going to choose some approach to renovations at that Civic Center that's in the hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm sorry, $268 million. I'm adding the populous numbers together, along with the $25 million in the parking lot. So that parking lot will partner with the Civic Center plus with the Corps of Engineers. So I'm just quickly did an add in my head altogether of all of that.
Mr. President,
Mr. Penn.
if we need to send something to the school board so we can speed it up, why we can't just send the first agreement? If they send something back
That's what he's asking.
and
That's what we did.
to the school board that we
That's
sent,
what-
but I thought,
We sent them the first agreement.
I saw the
They
school
sent
board.
us back.
I thought that was from, I thought when, Flo said that was to Superintendent Threadgill
Lawyers only.
and the lawyer. So that one, the school board haven't reviewed this.
No, they haven't.
So they only meet once a month.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. The school board haven't reviewed it. If they're gonna look at the other one and break it down and send something back, why not give them an opportunity to look at this one?
That's what Mr. Reynolds, that's what we're trying to do.
No, I'm talking, looking at the first
Without the red lines.
without the red lines.
Oh, send the school board members the original
Right.
without the red line.
With the red lines, we have an agreement the superintendent, I think, feels comfortable with.
But the school board members haven't
School
seen
board
it, is
hadn't
what they're
seen,
saying.
hadn't seen either one.
And what if they have changes and don't
Yeah.
like the red line version, I think is what they're trying to say.
So put it off a month. have good conscience, can we spend the money to fix the field?
Well, Mr. Mayor, in essence, we own the stadium. So in essence, even if the board was in place, we still own the stadium as capital. The board was a operating arm to manage the directors that were, I guess we picked. I can't even remember how it happened with Reggie anymore. But in essence, any capital outlay for the stadium with us owning the building is our responsibility to the time of sale. And we're just simply saying at the time of sale that we still agree to fix the field. So we can fix the field right now if we so chose to.
Mr. President.
Mr. Reynolds.
We've got a great opportunity here. And I think we all agree that we've got a great
We're
opportunity
going to make it work.
to preserve Lad-Pedium and its grand, history for decades to come. And I think it would be foolish of us to allow this opportunity to get by us when we have a very healthy discussion going on amongst the school board and its members about their willingness to take on this, massive undertaking to help, preserve the stadium and put new life back into it. And if we're truly after the preservation of the stadium, this is about as good as we're going to get. This is an opportunity that we should take care of. And if we need to, get a couple of the X's and O's, in line in a small way or some way so that we can ensure that it happens, I'm on board with that. But it's not going to happen until we get something in front of them. And if there is some substantive changes, like I said, I advocated for this resolution to be amended last week. If there are some substantial changes to this agreement, it would have to come back to us. But we got to get the discussion started, in the public eye so we can reach an agreement for this historical opportunity that we have.
Hold on, Mr. Carroll, it's Ms. Gregory, but let the mayor, then Ms. Gregory, then you, Mr. Carroll.
The agreement for you, you said it's the superintendent and the attorney. Superintendent has done a pretty good job getting things handled as he presents them to the board. This is the agreement that he thinks that they will approve, or he wouldn't put it out there. Okay. So keep in mind that you've got a framework that he thinks that he can get passed. Then I know what you change, you may not get it passed. So if they don't pass it, then you're definitely off for another month. So if you have concern, then put it in there today so that they meet on a Thursday, and then we can hammer it out after that.
Yeah, and that's kind of my question too. If whatever we send them, if they make change, if we approved some language today and we send it to them and they make changes in this, then how do we handle that? If we don't agree with the changes that they make in the intergovernmental, do we come back on Monday and
That's my point.
change it then?
My point.
And kind of just
I
do the
need
process.
I think we need to have, I think we all need to be sitting at the table at the same time to have some type of assurances between.
Well,
the
what we
two
can
boards.
do is
I need to
come
talk
up
to
with
you.
an agreement for today that we're comfortable with, or whether you're adding some language back in or not, send it to the school board. And then if we're worried about the time, we could come back on Friday and pass this, or pass it, change it, whatever we need to do, amend it, I don't know. And then let them meet on Monday and hopefully everything would be
When's their
resolved by
board?
then.
Their board meetings Thursday or Tuesday.
Thursday's what they
The
said.
work session's Thursday. Then
Work
the
session, then they
session's
meet on
Thursday,
Monday.
Then they meet on Monday. They're gonna have their work session on Thursday. We ought to know Thursday.
Yeah.
And if they meet on Monday, if they send us, if whatever happens on Thursday, we can always meet on Friday or Monday. I don't have a problem with that. My biggest concern, like I keep saying, is the community as a whole. I need to hear from them that our community is going to be able to function in a way that it's been functioning for the last 25 years. This doesn't tell me that. It doesn't. And I need to hear that, see it, or have it in writing, and I'd rather have it in writing because this doesn't do it.
Well, why don't we come up with whatever language it is that needs to go in there that goes along with what we've already discussed, which was the right but not obligation to,
And you think that we'd have all of that done before 10:30?
well, it's not that much. If
I'm
local-
not, I don't understand, Ms. Kessler, how does what you suggested differ from what's here in this crossed out 13 and 14?
Paragraph 13 that was crossed out has the, that the deed will include a right of reentry.
Yeah.
And the school board was uncomfortable with that. So
And capacity and size numbers that.
Wait, hold on for a minute, please. Where is this, Flo?
it's on the.
About the
fourth.
deed?
Yeah, 13 and 14.
Yeah, but I'm trying to find the language about the deed.
It's at the bottom, the last sentence, in 13.
Oh, I see. Okay. So it's really that last sentence they object to. Is that correct, Flo?
that's correct.
And it still grants us right of reentry.
So we could just leave the paragraph, but take out that last sentence.
I'm not sure about C, about transferring ownership of the stadium, but
Well, first right or whatever, but right but not obligated to.
Yeah, but you could still have that 14. I mean, it just doesn't need to be in the deed. It's part of the agreement that the city would have the right, but not the obligation to reenter. And if the city executed that right, then the title would shift. Well, they might not want to sell it.
Mr. Carroll?
I think it would be easier to make sure we had complete common ground if somebody from the school board was sitting here right now.
I don't want to get into a position.
This is my opinion, and I'm entitled to that, and I think it would be a whole lot easier, and I think we could resolve this without a whole lot of fanfare as far as to making sure that there was a level of comfort here that the community was going to be 100% with. It's just paramount. You know, I don't know what's going to happen on Thursday, but I would feel a whole lot better if they were sitting here at the table at the same time, or if they had a representative here to talk about something that they've sent us back today, which they don't. And I could clearly understand what the intent of their red lines are, but right now I don't.
Slim chance there'll be a city commissioner.
They could have sent their,
All the other commissioners.
they could have sent their lawyer, Mr. Mayor.
That's- you wouldn't find out.
But they could have sent their lawyer or any representative to talk to why, what intent the superintendent itself could have come. I mean, if it was that important to them, if they were making a transaction like that, I'm pretty sure you would be there. Yes, yes, sir. But you would make sure so that any concerns were addressed in the level of comfort in the transaction that was made. And that's simple. We just need to get there. I'm
All
sorry.
All right.
I think we need to hold it over.
Yeah, Chief Barber, if I can see you and William Carroll, core at the meeting, and if possible, and let's go ahead and discuss this. Let's move on. Okay. Anything else? Anything from administration? Okay. We see each other 10:30.
Sit there next to the precinct on the same seat.